some common traps on main idea questions. We want to keep these in mind. If we incorporate these into our SAT robot rules, when we see them, we will notice them and we will be able to react quickly and accurately. Some questions may refer to sections of the passage, but not the passage as a whole. So let me give you an example. Say I have this passage and it has, 1, 2, 3, we'll say even 4 paragraphs. And I'm over here and I'm, working this main idea question. And here are my answer choices. Right? And I'm reading answer choice A and I'm like, oh, answer choice A is in there. I remember reading it, it was right here. But that's the only place they mentioned answer choice A. It's talking about dogs. And they talk about dogs here. But actually the rest of the passage is talking about trees and trees and trees. And this part's just about some random example about how dogs like to pee on trees. So I'm trying to do a main idea question, and answer choice A is like dogs, and you're like, right on, dogs was in there, I'm working really quickly, and I'm doing the SAT the wrong way where I just read the whole passage, try and remember everything and answer the questions based off my memory. Bad idea, genes. Don't answer questions based on your memory. You want to be able to point to something in the passage. So you always have to be going back and forth. And so say you're like, oh, I'm going back and forth here, just like Farb said. There's dogs in the answer choice, there's dogs in the passage. It's true, it's in there, that must be it. But the problem is you're not answering this question. This is a main idea question. So a common trap of a main idea question is that it refers to a section of the passage, but not the passage as a whole. We need to, main idea questions have answer choices that refer to the whole passage, what the thing is as a whole, which in this case is trees. So if it's too specific, not a good answer for a main idea question. Truthful statements are not the correct answer just because they are true, and we were just talking about that as well. So too specific, not good for main idea. Just because it's true doesn't mean it's the main idea. Incorrect answer choices may be accurate to the passage, but do not address the main idea of the author. So really that little cartoon that I put on there is just kind of embodies these points. These are just there for you to have in your notes. Use the author's opinion with caution. A statement the author would support is not necessarily a main point. Just because the author agrees with something in the answer choices doesn't make that the main idea of the passage. Oh, not homework time. Time to work on some questions. So let me give you a quick little tour of Grockit here. So you have this question here, but there's some more to it. This is the rest of the what it looks like when you're in a Grockit game. I'm working on this question on my own. You'll notice over here on the right, here are a bunch of times I went through the questions and didn't answer them as I was preparing for the class earlier. This is the Grockit TV broadcast message you may have seen if you were in the SAT community before class started. And you can see that this question is testing reading comprehension main idea. It's passage-based reading, and it's one short passage. So if I click on one of these, I can access the Grockit textbook that teaches me how to work one short passages for the SAT. This chapter was written by Katie Cantrell. You can also access some videos that teach this specific type of issue on the test as well. And we have that based on these different skills or tags on this question. You can also see that this is a 16-point question, which in Grockit is a pretty difficult question. In Grockit, our questions are worth either 2, 4, 8, 16, or 32 points. The harder the question, the more points it's worth. And you can see that your XP and GP here, this is a new account for me, so I don't have that many. And you can also access the quick little help menu here if you want to learn what different things are about, like experience points, how to eliminate answers, how to get hints. There's actually a little hint mechanism down here if you're working on your own. It'll sort of eliminate 2 answer choices style, millionaire style. And if you want to skip this question, you can skip it as well. So just a quick tour of Grockit while we were in there. Let's go ahead and work this question and see if we can remember how to identify it. So everyone tell me in the chat box, don't read the passage yet, let's read the question first. How would you identify this question? What language in here as an SAT robot do I see that lets me know that this is a main idea question? Everyone write what word in here lets me know this is a main idea question. So you should be writing primarily. Just like we saw over in our slides, whenever we see main idea, primary purpose, the passage is written primarily to, we know that we're dealing with a main idea question. Sometimes I like to actually write that on my SAT. Everything you see me doing here is what I would be trying to basically draw on my test booklet when I'm taking the SAT. It's really important to use your brain for one thing only when you're taking the SAT. Use your brain for one thing only, and that's thinking. Use the paper for all of the remembering. Don't make your brain do both. If you make your brain think and remember, you will make your brain dumber. We want to be as smart as we can on the SAT. If you try and remember, it makes your brain a little bit dumber than it would be if it was not trying to remember as well as think. Use the paper to remember, use your brain to think. So, this passage was written primarily to. It's pretty short. I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds to read this little intro and read the passage, and you may begin. Okay, let's take a look at this passage. And they said the passage was written primarily to. Well, I know that they're talking about history. That's a big point of it. And they're going to examine it. There is this method of examination. It's certainly about history. But I don't have much more than that. Let's go to the answer choices and use our technique of eliminating answer choices. Eliminate answer choices. Eliminate, eliminate. Look for the wrong ones. There's more wrong answers than there are right answers. They're easier to find. Let's go ahead and identify some. Counter an argument. Well, if there's an argument in here, I have to be able to point to it. I can't find any arguments that I can point to or circle. If I can't do that, I have to eliminate that answer choice. Demonstrate a statistical flaw. Well, I can't point to any statistics in there. So this is the mold. This is moldy here. Moldy. Moldy. If I can't support that word, how is it the primary purpose of the passage? Every word counts. Get rid of B. Outline a method of analysis. Well, let's take a look. This is an introduction to a scholarly journal, okay? Analysis is like examination and discovering, and they're sort of talking about how they're going to do it. It will do this, not this. So I'm going to hold on to that. It seems supported by the language. Focus on historical details. So they talk about that. They talk about some of the men and women who made decisions that changed the course of history and not the broad issues. So I'm going to hold on to that as well. Challenge a misperception. So they're sort of playing on this idea here that, you know, history is more than just names and dates, but they're not really calling it a misperception. So we can get rid of that one as well. So what we have down is C and D, and that's normal to get it down to two answer choices. And the question is, are they really focusing on historical details, and can you do that in just an introductory paragraph? Maybe the passage will be about focusing on those historical details, but this portion of the passage is just outlining a method of analysis. So we see the word analysis is supported by examination and discovering. outline. They talk about outline as, you know, sort of broad and high level enough for them to qualify doing that in an introductory paragraph. And a method is how they will do it. It will focus, they're talking about how they will do that. So I think I can go ahead and pick A and submit my answer and see what's going on. Nice, I got that one correct. Also, if you're studying in Grockit, you can click on View the Explanation, and it'll give you an expert explanation after your class. After you're done, you can also review all of the work you've done and see other comments left by other students while they were reviewing their work, and help each other out that way as well. Let's take a look at another question. So compared to passage 1, passage 2 emphasizes. So the question is, do we have to read passage 1 to talk about what passage 2 does? Well, I'm actually going to read passage 2 first here. Let's take a look. Take 30 seconds and go ahead and read passage 2. So passage 2 is sort of anti-laser. Anti-laser. They said it should be left, should not be done without medical supervision because there are life-threatening burns, infections, and scarring. So my guess is, even though I haven't read passage 1, that passage 1 is sort of probably pro-laser. Let's take a look. As the lasers used in dermatological medicine have improved, so have the ease and effectiveness of treatment for a variety of conditions. So this seems to be sort of pro-laser. But let's take a look at the answer choices. It's all about eliminating answer choices. Compared to passage 1, passage 2 emphasizes. You notice how I always go back to the question? I don't go based on my memory of what the question said. I always go back to it and read it just as I'm going to the answer choices. Compared to passage 1, passage 2 emphasizes the benefits of Food and Drug Administration approval. I don't remember reading that, and they don't talk about list its benefits. The variety of conditions that can be successfully treated with lasers. Well, this passage is anti-laser, so it's not going to list all the pro-laser reasons. The cosmetic uses of lasers. No, they're just talking about the bad things that can happen. The possible dangers of lasers. Sure, I'm going to hold on to that. The high cost of lasers. I don't really remember that. So if you notice, we could basically answer this question, and we know that it's a primary purpose or main idea question because, you know, it's comparing a whole passage to a whole passage as opposed to individual parts of it. And we can also find language. We can find Waldo right here, and we always have to be able to do that. Even on these main idea or primary purpose questions where theoretically it's just the general abstract understanding. This is the universal sign of general abstract, you know, information in the passage, but really it always has to be supported by actual language. Let's go ahead and pick D and see if we were correct. Nice, nice. Awesome. So let's go on to another question. So everyone tell me in the chat box, how do I know that this is a main idea question? And if you like to write that down on your test, it's a good idea to do that so you remember what you're dealing with. Everyone tell me in the chat box, how do I know this is a main idea question? Again, we should be identifying the word primarily. So that lets me know. And just like the one before, it seems like the SAT likes these question types. Unlike passage 1, passage 2 focuses primarily on the school system's what? So I'm going to actually let everyone answer this one on their own. You have 2 minutes. Read passage 2. Check passage 1 if you want to, and then answer the question and tell me your answer in the chat box. Don't be shy. Don't worry about being wrong. The only way you learn is to get things wrong. We're all in it together here, so just go ahead and answer and dive in. You have 2 minutes.